Have with Mickey Mani Omatangi, who is a senator for Kiambu. Also do have with us Boni Halwale, who is a former legislator or senator for Kakamega. We have with us also Aaron Cheruiyot, the senator for Kericho. We have Dr. Seli Simiu, who is a member of parliament for Tongarend, and Dr. Tende Amolo, who is a member of parliament for Rarieda. Jacob Midio is feeling rough this morning, so will not be joining us this morning as well. But let's just pick up with the dailies this morning. Aaron Cheruiyot, looking at that particular headline today, Painter's top students miss dream schools. Also, I shall show you the editorial cartoon that has been drawn by Stano as well. What was your reaction?
Well, good morning, viewers, and thank you, Dibal, for this morning. This is a very, it is sad, but also the reality of life that has come too early for these youngsters. You see, I watched on the news last night as some of the parents explained how, you know, generally in life, when you work hard because you believe that when you work hard, you get that which you want. Many of these students are applied to join the top schools, the Mangus, Alliance, Tarehe,
Yes.
Kenya High, Pangani. When it finally dawns on you that despite the fact that you've scored 420 marks, you can't join the school of your choice because of this rule that I saw Matiang'i try, I saw Magoha try to explain, but I couldn't really understand about the choice of schools that you're supposed to pick option 1 to 11,
yes.
But many students end up picking option 1 and 2 only because they believe they know what they're doing, they believe they'll meet the requisite marks, and therefore it gets them into trouble. It's sad because it's, you know, we're talking about young kids here. If it was adults, then it will be okay because adults can survive. They can understand that in life, it's not always the case that you get that which you deserve. But for a young boy or young girl at the age of 14, there is still pure innocence in their ambition, and they believe that once you've secured a certain set of marks, the next thing you do is you go to the shop and buy uniform for Alliance boys or Alliance girls, if that is the case. And when this reality dawns on them, then it becomes an early preparation for life. I'd wish to give them comfort, though, in knowing that it's not always the case that some of the most celebrated institutions will produce the top performers. In fact, what they need to do is to wait a few weeks longer, and they'll see when KCSE results are out that among the the best performing, though by large scale, these schools will of course produce the highest number of top scoring students.
Yes.
They will not be the only ones. They'll realize that there'll be the Mirandas and the Kabaraks and all these other institutions where they're being referred to, that they'll realize that those schools still will do well. Therefore, it's not necessarily that you've got to go to some of these highly revered institutions for you to succeed. There's evidence to the contrary, that there are people who've gone to that kind of setup, and because of that thinking that so long as I'm in this particular school, I'll succeed, when the KCSE results have come, they've been anything but short. By the way, Dibal, you may want to compare for these kids because it's important for us not to break their hearts while they're still young. When KCSE results come out this year,
yes,
compare to what these students had scored 4 years ago. It's not always the case that they were among the top students. These kids that were moving around with cameras celebrating for their KCPE results, I can bet you that perhaps it is only half of them that you will perhaps celebrate in 4 years' time for their KCSE results. Most of them, for one reason or the other, they may not turn out to still be the top of the country. They'll still do well. That is not to say they won't do well, but they will not be amongst the top students at the end of this examination season. So, right, to this group of students, take heart, but it is not the end of anything. You may not have achieved what you want, but still keep aiming. I want to believe a good school is just a step to somewhere. It is not the end in itself. That's not where they are aiming. I'm sure they are aiming at something bigger in life, which they can still achieve in the institutions that they've been sent to.
Right. That is the Daily Nation. Maybe we can get also the reaction of Dr. Eseli as well. And also looking just on the front page of the Standard as well, all giants scoop top KCPE stars. That is what we have on the front page of the Standard as well this morning. Pangani Alliance caps a bit. Boys, Miranda, Mangu, Moi Girls and Kenya High lead pack. Magoa says most pupils missed their preferred schools for not following selection rules. This is tucked away on page 3 of the Standard as well.
I understand the disappointment of the youngsters for not getting the schools they want, because in any country there is always what we call the creme de la creme schools, where what they call in the US Ivy League institutions.
Yes.
So Ivy League.
The Ivy Leagues.
Ivy League institutions. So usually any youngster will aspire to go to those institutions, and definitely when they don't make it to those institutions, they get disappointed. It's understandable, and that's human life. That there will always be competition, and somebody will get it, another one will miss it. So it needs a lot of counseling for these youngsters to accept their fate and go ahead and work hard wherever they will be selected to. Because I've always told youngsters in my schools, in my constituency, which are not considered as Ivy League, I usually tell them, don't worry, just work hard. Buildings don't read, books don't read, it's you who reads. So you need to just put in the effort. So I think these youngsters will need a lot of counseling. And then it also goes back to the Ministry of Education. When they decided to upgrade certain schools to national schools, what criteria did they use? A few of those, indeed, were good performing schools, like French School, Kamusinga, and so on, but some of them were just pulled out of the blue and made national schools. And now these well-performing youngsters are forced to go to those schools.
Okay.
I think the ministry needs to redouble their efforts in ensuring that those schools are properly staffed with proper infrastructure so they can actually compete effectively. And I saw in the news yesterday that one of the schools, Moi Girls Kapsawa, had actually lost, due to the mudslide and so on, landslide and so on, they had actually lost some laboratories and classrooms and so on, so they might not even be opening on time, as it were. So I think the ministry also needs to look at it, because it's not good to keep on disappointing these youngsters when they expect to go to a top school. It should be a top school, not just in name, but in fact that it's actually a top school. I think that's something that we need to really look at carefully, because every country has that. There's always a premier institution that the best brains will aspire to be in that institution.
Okay. Good morning, Otena Molo. You want to react on this as well? Also, we have the People Daily, which is still holding the same headline, all about academia, Alliance, Mangu, and Kenya High tech top students. That is a splash today. Education CS releases Form 1 placement data, says the more than 1 million KCPE candidates placed in schools will report to class in January. Rules out second selection. This story continues on page 4 for them, maybe that were also looking forward for a second selection. This has been ruled out, and that is a statement there from the Cabinet Secretary, Otene Molo.
Yes, good morning, Kenya. I think this story is a story of mixed fortune. There are those who got the schools that selected. For example, the other week I congratulated one of my constituents who was a top girl in Nyanza, and she got her school, and it's actually on page 3. She was admitted to Kenya High, which is what she wanted, Maria Clara Chion. I just spoke to another of the well-performing boys who had selected Mangu, but was not called to Mangu, has been called to my old school Miranda. And I encouraged him, to accept that and actually go and perform well. Actually, I'm happy that quite a number, I think Miranda was the second most popular in that category of schools. There are only 3 things to say about this. One is that there is need for the ministry to re-examine this idea of selection process. When you say that a young pupil of 13 years is supposed to have up to 11 choices, and when, as they say here, you're blaming those pupils for not making the right choices, then there's a problem. A 13-year-old needs to be guided, not to make those mistakes, and then you find that they make them in thousands. Once you say that a child is bright and is well performing, it's a contradiction to say immediately thereafter that they made grave mistakes in selection, that means the problem is not the child. The problem is the process.
The process itself.
Secondly, I support the idea that the minister is trying to explain, where they put up to 30,000 students in schools they may not have selected. Because when they have done well and there are schools that are both national and have the facilities, you cannot then allow them to go to lesser schools. I think some choice has to be made. And that choice, it's a way of trying to remedy an initial problem. That choice of giving them the best opportunity that you can is to be supported. But thirdly, it means there's need for greater guidance, greater counseling, and greater advice for the pupils before they select the schools.
Yes.
And before they sit the exams. The fact that so many can get it so wrong, then means the problem is with the system. But lastly, I would encourage, reading the story, you find that there are a lot of pupils who are disappointed, not so much because the schools they've been selected to are not good schools. Some, selected Mangu. Most of them appear to have selected Mangu.
Yes.
Some have been invited to Kapsabet, some to French School Kamusinga, some to Maranda. It is because most pupils only select the names that they know, and sometimes schools that are proximate to them. I want to encourage them that even for the integration of this country, you should not fear coming from Nyeri and going to Maranda. You should not fear coming from Siaya and going to Coast. You should not fear coming from Coast and going to French School Kamusinga. It is also a way of broadening your mindset. This idea of only wanting to go to schools that are near you.
It's in BBI actually.
It's that idea is not a good idea. It's what encourages us to cocoon ourselves into tribal enclaves. So the more we spread out, the better for this country. And the more you do it at a young age, the much better for emancipation of your mindset later in life.
All right, let's hear from Kimano Matangi. Good morning.
Good morning, Dibal. Just first to say good morning to our viewers and also to you.
Good morning to you.
You're well?
I'm well, thank
Good
you.
to see you. Now, thank you. I want to also, like my colleagues, first encourage the young people, the young boys and girls who first deserve still our congratulations for having done very, very well. It's important that we remember out of the many thousands, about 10,000 roughly,
Yes.
About 9,000 and something are the ones who scored above the 400 marks. That's deemed to be probably the cutoff for those that would make it to those so-called top schools. And I think, one, as we congratulate them, I would want to echo what has been said by one of my colleagues, that I think during school selection, it is important that parents also take the time to advise the young people that between choice 1 and 3. And I remember myself when I was doing my exams at primary level,
Yes.
Dibal, and not to brag, but do I say I was the top student in my region, and then during selection of the school I was going to go to, I did not have actually the say where I was going to go. I was influenced by a boy who used to sit next to me, like the way we sit with Halwale here. And my head teacher kept on telling me, you have to select Alliance High School, because I know you will go to Alliance High School. Then when I was sitting next to a boy there, he told me, my brother is in Nyandaro High School, so I want us to go there with you. So and that's exactly what I did. And that's why I got admitted, despite having done quite well. And so eventually I got settled to it. It didn't dampen my spirits or my career. and thanks to God, here I am today. And so it is important that we advise the young people that no matter what, even if you don't get that right choice that you made as a first choice, between those three, if you get one, you're still good to go. The reason I say that, Dibal, is because if you look at the collection of those top schools, they're not more than 20, that are listed. Even if you increased them to 40, the ones that are known, and assume that each school has got 3 streams with a class of 40, then you're talking about roughly about 5,000 students getting admitted into all those. So you still have 400 plus marks students, about half of them that got it, that would not get to their dream schools. I would want to throw the challenge to government. One, ask yourself, and this is what I was just asking myself as my colleagues here were contributing to it. What contributes to the continued creation of that classification of schools as top schools? And I would put it this way: if you have top students and your school is continuously selecting the best out of the best in the country years over, then you continue to be one of the best schools. And probably that idea of spread is also not bad. When you spread them across various fair category schools, because that means you are also distributing distinction.
Yes.
And such that those students with good IQ, with better learning skills, can also go and have a peer-to-peer competition and also growth with other young people. Two, would we think also as a society that then it is time to implore national government to invest more in public schools, and especially in the environment that makes a good learning environment for young people. If you look specifically at some of those top schools, take for example Alliance, Kenya High, and so on, and you visit, I'm a parent in Kenya High, and with Bonnie Halwale here. And if you go to some of those schools, you'll find that they have an investment and focus on good learning in so many ways, and it is continuous. The culture inculcated into the kids is also of a higher caliber. You'd say so. Why not invest that in a wider range of schools and have the focus that way? Then we would be saying that we have a better opportunity for our young people. So I want to say to them that I don't think that this is the end of the road. They have a good opportunity. Indeed, most of the times nowadays, learning happens after you do your O-levels, after you have had your first degree. If you go now to the universities around here, the guys sitting for their PhDs in the age of Halwale and Otiende Amolo and other courses are so many. So this process is continuous. You go to Maranda, you may go to another school that is not so top cream, but in the second loop, you find yourself in Harvard. The opportunities are not closed. Some of the top scorers actually came from what you'd call obscure primary schools. Yeah.
Obscure.
I mean, if you look at some of the 400 plus, they didn't come from Brookside and Ware and Hillcrest and all those.
Brookhouse.
Brookhouse.
Yes.
I mean, they didn't come from those top schools. Some of them came from primary schools where they have to walk on barefoot.
Right. Let's hear from Bonnie Halwale. And your daughter, how is the selection? Because we can see this, the flag is reading 30,000. They have been affected by this. I don't know. Or they've been disappointed, it says here. 30,000 children placed in secondary schools, they did not select. Your daughter, I should say, performed well, so tell us also how is the selection for her?
This matter, there are only two people to speak to. The first one is the government, and the second one is the parent. The government has done very well because all Kenyans know that the government in the recent past has increased the number of national schools. In fact, that has been accompanied with increased funding and therefore improvement in facilities. So the number of spaces available for top performing children is better these days than it was in the yesteryears. I therefore want to congratulate the government for this. And because of this, there's also something else we need to congratulate the government. Namely, they have removed the human influence in the selection process. This year's selection was computer aided. And therefore, all these parents who are screaming would be justified if there was human error. But this was just a question of computer. The criteria has been set. You go where you are supposed to be. Now, why do I support this? I support this because we should not take a parent attitude to appear like there is a national problem. Take, for example, Dr. Eseli. Dr. Eseli was at Nairobi School. Dr. Halwale, I was at Kakamega High School. That did not stop us from going to medical school. My brother Amolo has just told us, he was in Maranda. that did not stop him from becoming the top lawyer that we know he is. So we need to tell children, it is not just from Alliance High School or Mangu High School that you will become who you're supposed to be. I was in a class at Kakamega High School with Professor Stanley Hainga. He's now a plastic surgeon. I was in the same class with Professor Peter Masinde. He's now an ENT surgeon. So we have to give the right encouragement to children. My kid brother here, Aaron, is from Kericho High School. My brother Wamatangi just told is from Nyandarua. This kind of misleading of children should stop. I remember, for example, that because his elder siblings have been going through Alliance High School, my son last year, the year before last, missed out on Alliance High School. He had gotten 402 marks. But the ministry did not just throw him there. He found his way in Kakamega High School, another national school. So these parents who are screaming, if you follow these children, you'll find that these children have been given an alternative school. Yeah. So it's not a big story. You asked about my daughter. Dubu has been very lucky. She's gotten a very nice national school. And that's the way it should be. I should not just be happy because Dubu has gone to Alliance Girls or Kenya High. She's gotten a very nice national school. This is a big story that signifies nothing.
All right.